Welcome to the Driving Change podcast on the Evergreen Podcast Network, where we live at the intersection of neuroscience and storytelling. If you love great stories and you love understanding the mindset it takes to be a world-class change agent, then join us as our fascinating guests from all walks of life unpack their unique journeys of perseverance and passion, of expertise and experience, and be inspired to use your own story to drive change. All right, welcome back to the Driving Change podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Bloomfield. Today's guest, you're going to leave this entire episode on fire. You're going to be motivated. You're going to be ready to go to the next level. Billy Cox is not just a profound motivational speaker. He's a proven sales expert, entrepreneur. He owns currently 5 large businesses that have accumulated billions of dollars in revenue. His real world work experience mixed with his get in the game attitude, and I can't wait for him to drop some of that on us today, has really helped him scale these companies to heights of where they are today. There's one thing about Billy that he emphasizes that I really appreciate, as you know, with my love of the brain, is the power of the mind and how it takes you on this journey of personal and self-development, which is what his passion is. In 23, Billy's main goal is to help people break free from the current limitations and achieve the highest version of themselves. He's got a mastermind group. He's got a podcast. He's got a book. He's out all over the place speaking. He's helping entrepreneurs grow their businesses to levels they never dreamed possible. And more importantly, he's helping individual people overcome limitations in their own lives so they can pursue their purpose. Now, Billy, I don't know if that intro does you justice or not.
I owe you for that one, man, for sure. That was awesome. But thank you for that wonderful introduction, and I'm grateful to be here.
Well, it's an honor to have you on the show today. As a fellow keynote speaker, I know that's the tank filler upper for me is when I get on stage and talk to audiences. I know you're the same way.
Oh yeah.
When you think about where you've come from, it's always fun to learn about, what the origin story was for little Billy. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? Who were those early influences on your life? And tell us a little bit about that story, that journey you've taken.
Yeah, where I've come from has had a major impact on my life, even though I do believe that probably where you come from is not near as important as where you're going. I do believe that it's truly, important, those people that are around you, whether they're mentors, whether they're parents, or the people that have major influences in your life. As a matter of fact, Zig Ziglar in the wall in the next room has this Ziglar wall of gratitude, and it's all the people that had made a difference in his life and made him into who he was. So everybody and everything that we do throughout our life has brought us to where we're at today. Myself personally, at a young age, I'll start kind of when I started into sales, but before then, my greatest influence in my life was my parents. And really, they were not typical parents. They really wanted to see you be, do, and have more. And my father was a Baptist preacher, and so I was able to meet a whole lot of people because we never stayed in one place very long. And so really, some people look at that as a negative. I look at it as very much a positive because it really helped me get to know people, understand people relatively quick. So then I'll fast forward through high school where I moved into sales. When I graduated high school, both of my parents also taught school. They wanted me to get into school and go to college. And I didn't go to college. I chose to get into sales, and I was going to 3 months. I was going to try that for the summer. And I promised them if I didn't make more money during the summer than they did teaching, that I would go to college. And crazy enough, my first 3 months in sales, I did. I made more money than they made school teaching, even though I was 17 years old. I hadn't even turned 18 years old yet. The interesting thing right after that, and I'll pause for a minute, but the interesting thing right after that is the next month after I was supposed to go to college, I only made $100 because I was in this thing called commission sales. Commission means if you don't sell nothing, you don't make nothing. And I made 100 and it cost me about 500, and I had to rethink things. And believe me, I've been through many ups and downs and challenges and setbacks and comebacks and cars repossessed and broke and all of those things, especially early in the journey. But every new level requires a new commitment. And I can talk more, about my story from going to sales to running businesses to how I wound up in Dallas and all that stuff later. But that was my early life.
Now, where was this? Where were you? Where was this located? What area of the country were you in?
So actually, Texas. It was more in East Texas around Longview, and that's where I started my sales career at, was Longview, Texas. And then by age 20, I had done well enough to become the youngest dealer in our company and sales. The interesting thing is, I had to move. First of all, they didn't want to give it to me because I was so young, but I'd earned it. Number two, I had to move to the territory where three other people had failed, and they really said, you don't want to go there, trying to discourage me. But I made a decision that I was going to do it. And we went there, frankly, 3 months after I took my own office. And there was over 500 offices in the world, by the way. This was a large company out of over 500 offices. And 3 months later, I went out to get in my car one morning and it was gone. And I called the police and they said, have you made your payments yet? And I was like, my car had been repossessed, but that was a turning point in my life. I made a decision that day because I had arrived. I was selling before. Now I got my new office. I just thought people were going to come by. No, I quit doing what I'd done that brought me to the game. And so I made a decision and I put myself out in the forefront of sales and I started selling like crazy. That day I hawked some jewelry, bought some inventory, made 3 sales, got my car back, paid my rent up to date, and I've never been broke since then. I've had a lot of ups and downs, but I've never been broke since that day.
That's a great story. Now you're, excuse me, you got me all choked up with that story. You're one of those guys, and I love this because you're big on mindset. And what I'm always curious about with someone who's had the success that you've had, since we're in that kind of early 20s period of your life, at what point do you recall having an intentional, conscious awareness of how important mindset was versus an intuitive drive to just keep picking yourself back up? Because so many people are intuitively good, but not intentionally good, so not consistently good.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be something that you do intentionally. It has to be something that you learn to recognize over a period of time. But really, it was after my car. Early on, I'd learned the power of setting goals and some things like that because my sales manager had made me set some goals. And as I started to set them and read them, they started to come about. One of those things was even to own my own office and some different things like that. But really, it was not to the point till I started listening to actually like Automobile University. I started plugging in as a salesperson to Zig Ziglar going down the road, and I read the book Think and Grow Rich. And so that was my first book I'd ever read. And when he started talking about the power of the mind, the power of the mastermind, the power of the subconscious mind, and the things that you could do, that if you would feed your mind in with all of these good and clean and powerful and positive things and the things that you wanted, if you could get a clear mental picture of those things, it was a game changer for me because as I started to do that, I started to see results. And the more clear I got about what I wanted, I started to understand that clarity is power. And the more clear you are about what it is you want, and if you're willing to take action, because I believe action always equals results, but if you're willing to take action every day towards the things you're clear about, then you're more likely to get them. And I even have something now today that I call rapid fire success. But it's truly about focusing on the things. Les Brown said, what you focus on the longest becomes the strongest. So you got to make sure in your mind, what are you focusing on every single day? Are you focusing on past failures? Are you focusing on the self-limiting beliefs? Are you focusing on the things you can't do? Are you focusing on the future and the big goals, the big dreams, the big things that you have that you want to achieve in your life? And if you'll get clearly fixed, I call the word fixed, if you'll get your mind clearly fixed on those things, and then you will take action, you will say, do, act, and react in ways that are going to bring them about.
See, I love that. I've had the privilege of interviewing a lot of really successful people, and many of them, and one of the consistent threads is this idea of mindset and visualization is very clear.
Yes.
It's consistent across every successful person that's
Yeah.
been what I would call uber successful like yourself.
Mhm.
But you added a piece that sometimes we don't discuss, which I can have the greatest mindset and positive and affirmation, and I can visualize success, and I can have it all. I can have the vision board in my subconscious mind and maybe in my literal on my whiteboard out. But if I just sit there and wait for it to come to me, it doesn't happen. And you've added that level of taking action. So my question on that is, so many young entrepreneurs, and I know you see them as well, is they have the vision and they have the mindset and they picture it. and then they go to take an action, but the action doesn't initially get them the vision. So then they get discouraged. They don't realize that it's a series of actions that require you to get there. And what's your thoughts on that idea of one action doesn't lead to a vision accomplishment, right? It's a series of.
Absolutely. 100%. Great question. And it never does. Okay. But an action always equals a result.
Right.
And from that result, if you learn from it, even if you don't consider it a success, then it is a success. So action equals results, equals success, equals confidence, equals more action. But you got to take action. So you can have every vision that you want in the world and every idea of the day and all these different things. But without that clear, and I believe the word is focused, action, without the clear focused action, you're never going to get anywhere. But you cannot fail if you're focused on what you want and you're willing to take action every day and you're willing to learn from it. I tell everybody at the end of their day, write down 3 things. Number 1, what was my win? Number 2, what was my win? Number 3, what did I learn? And guess what? If you learn something, what does that mean?
Win number 3, right?
That means win number 3. So you got 3 wins. And usually from those 3 wins, you can wind up finding bigger wins, or you can even go ahead. Usually when I write down my 3 wins, I want to get a 4th one, and I'll do something right then to give myself a competitive advantage. And I'll go ahead and knock out 2 or 3 or 4 more things that evening that most people don't when they're maybe watching TV or news or, just chilling or scrolling or whatever.
Right. No, I love that. I love the fact that I love to study successful people. I think to me, it's always fascinating, the mindset of a successful person and what got them there. And I used to tell my kids, my oldest is 23, my middle's 19, and my youngest is 12, almost 12 now, 11 and a half. I tell them a lot, the choices we make in the moment determine the options we have in the future. And you can choose one of 2 things, action or inaction. And if you choose action, worst thing that's going to happen to you is you're going to get new information. If you choose inaction, you're not going to get anything different, right? So you won't have anything to learn.
And Zig Ziglar said something, I didn't even know this, but I just saw it lately, years ago, and I'm coming back to Zig a little bit, but the more new information you acquire, the more valuable the old information you have becomes.
So good.
So you can't even make your existing information more valuable without acquiring new information. But now with new information, good or bad, your old information becomes multidimensional and more powerful.
It's an amplifier, right?
It's an amplifier. So, but there are patterns. You was back on this a second ago. You talk about the successful people. You study successful people. You see successful people. You want to get the same thing successful people do the same thing they do with the same action and the same attitude, and you can get a very predictable result. So there are patterns for success. Unfortunately, there are patterns for failure. The same thing in baseball. When I teach my kids baseball earlier, and I'm going to be teaching my grandkids in a few years, but you teach them to swing at the strikes and let the balls go. Isn't that kind of the story of life? If we would learn to swing at the strikes and we learn to let more of the balls go, we're more likely to hit the home runs. We're more likely to get the base hits, and we're more likely to win the games.
So how do you feel about then? You said the word earlier that I love focus, and it led to we do a word of the year at Brain Trust every year. I have a word of the year we launch with, and this year the word of the year is discipline.
Yes.
Because to me, once you're focused and then you become disciplined at those patterns, you can start to repeat the successes, right? How's that line up with your philosophy?
There's no success. There is zero success without discipline. And the interesting thing, everybody has discipline. Either you discipline yourself, or life's going to discipline you anyway. If you know it's coming, then why not be intentional? The word is always intentional, because with discipline takes intention. It's not something you just get up and do. It's something you force yourself to do. You put yourself through the uncomfortable positions of doing those things. So I believe successful people, to an extent, they live uncomfortably. So you have to figure out how much uncomfortableness you can live with. So you've got to be consistently pressing yourself and raising the bar. And to do that, it don't just naturally happen. You have to make up a decision that I'm going to be intentional, a decision that I'm going to be disciplined. That means I'm going to get up, I'm going to dress up, I'm going to show up, I'm going to never give up, Okay. And I'm going to do it repeatedly over and over again. So discipline and confidence are sisters or brothers, if you want to say the same thing. You cannot gain confidence without discipline. So you want to be confident. You want to be that confident person. You gain confidence in yourself and others. You want to gain it, but for yourself, the only way you can gain confidence in yourself is by doing the things you say you're going to do over and over again. You want to gain confidence with others? It's by them seeing you do the things you say you're going to do over and over again. And that takes that big word, discipline. You do it yourself, you intentionally discipline yourself, or you're going to get disciplined every way. And it's going to not be the life that you want. It's not going to be the marriage you want.
I love it. I love it. So we're gonna come up with a new catchphrase today on this episode, Billy. It's either you either get disciplined or you're going to get disciplined,
That's it.
right?
I mean, and isn't that kind of the story of life, though? I mean, even if you're raising kids or whatever, they have to kind of discipline themselves to get up, go to school, act right, do things, show up, all of those things. And if they don't, you've got, as a parent, as long as they're doing that, you're probably not going to discipline them. But, there has to be some pain, pleasure, and everything.
Yeah, and it's funny how so many people think of the word discipline as negative, but it's really one of the most positive words that we can have as an action, as a verb in our life. If we are disciplining ourselves to the right behaviors, that's the only way to get to the goal, right? It's the only way to accomplish the vision.
And discipline is super positive word. And it is, everybody should say it's necessary. It's necessary for success. I was having lunch with a Navy SEAL yesterday. And the chance of becoming a Navy SEAL when you start into SEAL class, you've already done all these things to get there. They pick the best of the best. But if you want to move to that top 1%, that top elite, only like 10% of the others, which really means the top 1%, because they've already filtered you to get you just a SEAL class. But by then, you're going to have to be only 10% of those that even try to go through it are ever going to make it to become a SEAL. So that means they're in the top 1%, those elite performers. And that means that discipline is a part of their life.
It's so true. And actually, a friend of mine is down by you, Commander Mark McGinnis. He was a Navy SEAL commander, and he was telling his story of that. There was 250 some people in his initial BUDS training, and 8 of them walked out as SEALs, right? And so it's just crazy. But it's the same thing in any pick your genre, right? Whether it's business or whether it's sports or whether it's whatever it is, there's always this elite group, and we look at those people and we say, well, they were lucky, or well, they just have God-given talent, or well, they just no, they don't. Tell us your philosophy on that. What's that look like to you?
Yeah. Well, I believe, number one, I believe train and sane or remain the same. Okay. So, you've got to, but yeah, there's, of course, we all have talents. We all have callings. We can't, we're not going to be the professional basketball player maybe if we don't really have some of those genes and some of those things in order to get there. But when it comes to business, when it comes to life, when it comes to really achieving the goals and dreams and all that next level of anything that you're doing out there, hard work beats talent for sure when talent don't work hard. But anybody, if they're going into something that they're passionate about, because I believe that we have a calling, I believe that we also have a purpose and we have a passion. And I believe that our passion, God's not going to tell us to do anything. He didn't put us here on this earth to do something that we hate. Okay. So when you're aligning your passion and your purpose and you've got those things aligned together, then once those things are aligned, then you can move up into that top 1%. Now, I believe most anyone that has a decent amount of talent can you can wind up in the top 20%. That's just not that hard. Frankly, in today's world, with the lack of discipline there is out there, a person can almost get up, dress up, show up, and be halfway prepared and wind up in that top 20%. What I teach people is how to move from that top 20% up into that top 1 or 2%. And that's going to take relentless focus. That's going to take shedding of the old. That's going to take renewing of the new. It's going to take bringing out that inside highest, better, best version of yourself. that is evolving. As time goes by. My father taught me a saying. It said, "Good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better is best." Brian Tracy, I told him that having lunch with him one day, and Brian Tracy said, "Yeah, Billy, but there's no limit to how much better you can become." So everybody out there should write that down because that changed my life. I was like, "Whoa, that's the bonus." There's no limit to how much better you can become. You may not be good enough today. So I tell people to write the word yet, Y-E-T. I don't have the talents. Don't say I can't do it. I don't have the talents yet. But as long as you say yet, then that opens up the door to I can acquire those talents. I can acquire those abilities. I can acquire those skills. Sure, it's going to be tough. I'm going to have to do like Michael Jordan. I'm going to have to work overtime, dribble, 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 shoot through rain, through sleet, through snow, through whatever it takes. But I'm going to hone my skills in and let the challenges and struggles of the day mold me, refine me, and make me into all I was intended to become.
And I've never heard that. I mean, I heard the expression that your dad used to tell you, but I love what Brian Tracy said there because what I've never thought about it that way. So if your good gets better and your better gets best, he's saying once your better gets best, your best has now become your new good.
Mhm.
And so now your good's got to get better and your better's got to get, and you just keep going, right?
Yeah, you're the bottom of the mountain. The best has now become the new good because, yeah, you've struggled to get there, but now you've developed the strength to where now it's a new norm.
Yes.
So that means the bottom of the top of the mountain is the bottom of another.
That's right. You start all
Most
over
people
again.
get to the top of the mountain and they admire themselves and they want to sit there and they want to wave and then that's it. But then what? What do you do after then? And so there's no such thing as remaining the same. We're moving forward or we're fading fast. I have a saying that, we've always heard the saying, if you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to always get what you've always got. I believe that's not true. I always tell everybody in the audience, say not true. If you keep doing what you've always done, 6 months from now, you're not going to be in business. The world is moving at a rapid fire pace of change. You're going to have to do things differently than you've ever done to get to where you want to get at that next level of success.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So it's that idea of you're either growing or dying. So you won't just keep getting what you've always gotten. You're going to get less because it's moved on without you, right?
You can get less. Yeah, complacency is the worst place to be.
It is.
So there's no such thing, living in complacent zone, or there's no such thing as remaining the same.
So give people a little bit of a behind the scenes picture into the day in the life of Billy Cox because you have your hands in so many different things. What's an average day or week look like for you, and how are you living out? And I wrote it down here. When your passion meets your purpose and is supported by a calling, you're on the right track. So how are you living yours out every day? What's it look like to be Billy Cox?
Well, first of all, it's chaotic. But it's maybe organized chaos because I really do believe that you can't just get too comfortable. So you've always got to be stretching, and when you're stretching, then there's going to be chaos because you're learning new things and you're doing new things. I do believe kind of in the rituals and the routines, but also I believe so many people are caught up in the wrong routines. And so I'm always trying to change up my routines to make those routines better. But 5:35 is my wake up call. And I don't wait. I use the Mel Robbins rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I've got a lot of things from a whole lot of different people, but I force myself to basically launch out of bed, and I have the tennis shoes and I have all of my workout gear ready, and I'm to the gym by 5:55. So, and I do a 5-minute warm up and then I work out, and that's 4 or 5 days a week. But that's my wake up is 5:35. And so I know this, I call it stacking wins. And I believe you just got to keep stacking those wins. I believe you win your mornings, you're going to win your day. I also have this thing called Monday morning mindset that a lot of people use, but I believe also if you win your Mondays, you win your week. So I'm very intentional about winning mornings, and I'm very intentional about winning Mondays. And those are things that I didn't always win. Okay. When I've done less, I wound up sleeping in. I wound up doing all those things. When I've done less on Mondays is when I didn't have a clear plan. So I believe even that Monday morning mindset starts on Sunday. Now, beyond that, we get rolling. I do things at home and I take time for my gratitude and I do what Brian Tracy said. I write down my top 10 goals because he told me, he said, Billy, do you write? I may have mentioned this earlier, but when we were sitting there, he said, Billy, do you have goals? And yeah, I've written dream books. I do goal setting seminars and all that. And he said, show them to me. And I was like, what?
I don't have them with me right now.
Yeah, right. And he was like, let me show you mine. And he said, he had them and he showed them to me. And he said, I write down my goals every single day. And I said, really? You write down your top 10 every day? I said, don't you already know what they are? And he said, that's the point. He said, I'm embedding them into my mind. And so and by writing them down, that's going to cause you to say, do, act, and react in ways that are bringing them about. So once, I know the outcomes that I want, so I'm trying to take actions that are moving that way. I also believe it's really important to the word schedule it. I tell everybody. So I keep my schedule booked up with things, with people. And I believe that we're in a relationship society today more than ever. I believe the knowledge economy has kind of almost come and gone. And now with AI, knowledge is very equal and it's going to be even more equal. We're going to have the same information, the same access, the same marketing, the same this or that or whatever. And it's just very close. So what is that next economy? What is that next level? It's really about building and developing those relationships. And it's about building and developing that brand, that personal brand and the business brand, and kind of combining that together. And so I have 5 companies, as you said earlier, and actually some other companies under those companies that complement them. And we've been, very blessed to do that. So I actively participate in numerous things that are going on with those. But fortunately, we have a lot of great people that are able to spend the majority of the time working on those. And I'm in a strong support role and a high-level decision role, but it's the high-level decisions. I don't know everything going on every day. And I believe as a leader, you can only really have a certain amount of direct reports, and you can only know a certain amount of what's going on. Now, you want to get the checkups when things aren't happening right or they're happening well. You want to know those things, but you don't have enough knowledge yourself to know all of the skill sets of everybody that's out there doing things. You can't build $100 million company if you know everything going on within that company. You got to have trusted people that are doing certain things and doing them right and doing it well. And that's the way you can grow, and that's the way you scale. Once I learned that, we were able to scale our business. So I still know what's happening. I still get financials. I still get reports. We've got meetings and events coming up. I'm going to the events and board meetings and helping cast the vision for those things that are going on and working with know who our key people are, keeping them rocking and rolling. So that involves a certain part of my day. Now, obviously, you talked about earlier, I've got books. How do you write books? It takes time. How do you do podcasts? It takes time. We do podcasts. Today, I get off of this call. I have something called Tactical Tuesday. We have a group of people that are in our team called the Mastermind, called the Movement. And so we're doing our Tactical Tuesday training, and we got time, but we're doing that in a little bit. You understand what I'm saying? So we're Tactical Tuesday. Like I said, yesterday morning I had lunch with meeting with the SEAL guy. I had a call right before this at 12 o'clock today. I had an hour-long training call and a coaching call that I was working on some next level stuff, which is pretty cool. So it's a combination of meeting with people. It's a combination of team meetings. It's a combination of working on the next projects, making sure those projects, the vision is cast. It's a combination of testing new things and replicating old things, okay? Doing more of what's working and figuring out, hey, if things aren't working, dismounting the dead horse. We've got to say no a lot of times. So part of the day is saying no. It's saying no for the bigger yes. Part of the day is saying yes. Some of those decisions are easy. We can rapid fire those decisions. Some of the decisions have to be thought about. And so I'm a bit of a workaholic right now. I took about 6 years where I wasn't, where we were like almost semi-retired. We were spending time at the lake house, spending time back here, whatever. I got a new vision a couple of years ago that people had lost their dream Most people, when I ask them, what's your dream? What's your purpose? The passion, the fire that burns deep down inside of your soul. What is it wakes you up, shakes you up, and keeps you up? What is the one thing that's going to drive you to the next level of your destiny? They go, like what? And they don't know.
Right.
And my goal, one of my big goals, is to help people rediscover their dreams and their passion and that fire, because I believe so many people today out there are in this complacent zone. I believe they're a number in society, that they're so socially and societal conditioned through their upbringing, through social media, through the environment that they're around, that they have just become caught up in Groundhog Day, the revolving door where they live it over and over again. And 10 years later, they go, what happened?
Right.
And my goal is to help them break out of that onto a new path, break through self-limiting beliefs that keep pulling them back, because we never go higher than our beliefs, and break free by letting go of all these burdens and regrets and disappointments and forgiveness and unforgiveness that they're using and excuses they're using, so they can unload some of the bricks out of their backpack so they can move on up to that higher level of something I call destiny zone. And destiny zone is where I believe people need to be living. And that's where their purpose and their passion and their calling collide with destiny. It's that sweet spot of success.
Well, a couple of things there that really hit home for me is number one, if you're a young entrepreneur and you're listening to this, you don't have to be an entrepreneur. If you're younger and you're listening to this, it's time to do that inventory to see where you're at with that, because you've got an entire longer runway than most of us to get this thing done. But if you're older,
Right.
I love the fact that Billy said, look, I was semi-retired. You're never too old to have a new spark for a new vision in your life
Absolutely.
to make a different impact, right?
100%. I mean, maybe you've disconnected for a while. Maybe that's good. Maybe you need to disconnect, but maybe you need to reconnect. And sometimes you can disconnect and even reconnect at a higher level, because while you're disconnected, maybe you catch that new vision. Maybe you take that time away. So it's okay to take some time away. And by the way, if you're happy completely taking that time away and going, I'm retiring and I'm going to living my dream life, as long as you're happy, as long as you feel like I'm living my dream and I'm serving out my purpose, whatever that may be, that's great. Just so many people aren't. They're miserable. Maybe they worked a job and they had a dream, and one time they tried it and it didn't work out, and life come along and children come along and all of these different things that came along in life that sort of pulled them in this direction. That's okay. But today is the first day of forever. It's the first day of the rest of your life. And all of those experiences from the past has made you better. So you can actually reconnect with your knowledge at a higher level. Still don't mean it's not going to be hard.
Right.
So it's not, easy is not an option, but it means it's possible. So no matter where someone is at, young person, entrepreneur, housewife, at home, which is the hardest job in the world, okay, raising kids and running a family and running the hardest in the world. But I believe there's never been a time in history where husbands and wives, or even people that are single and mothers that have children, fathers, all of these things, but where they have to be more on the same page and more clear and more focused on the same thing together. And when you do that and you can work together, you get back to what we was talking about earlier. That mindset starts to change. You start to get more harmonious because you're more clear. Clarity is not only power, it's the antidote to anxiety. So the more clear we are about what it is we want, not only the more likely we are to achieve it, but also the less anxiety we have, because we're more clear about what it is that we want to do and who we want to be, or what we want to do, or what we want to have.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, there's so many things that we could talk about, and I know we're running out of time already. I know you've built a lot of tools and you have a lot of resources where people can go and learn about how to do a lot of the things you're talking about. Let's talk just briefly about where we can send folks today to get some of those tools and resources and get in touch with you and your team.
Absolutely. I mean, just the easiest place is real simple, and that can lead them to anywhere else, but it's billycox.com. And on Facebook, you can follow me out at Billy Cox Motivation, but you can reach me there, billycox.com. We're on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and all that, Facebook and stuff, but BILLYCOX.com.
Yeah, so go out to billycox.com, check out his mastermind group, check out his book, The Dream Book, check out his podcast, which I believe is called Stacking Wins, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, we just changed the name. So it was Break Free, but it just, as we did more seminars and meetings, everybody's talking about stacking wins, stacking wins, stacking wins. And so we just changed the name of the podcast to Stacking Wins. But I also want to just commend Jeff, commend you and the team at Brain Trust, the growth and what you guys are doing out there and how you're spreading the message to the world, making a difference in people's life, because the mindset, the brain is that thing that sets the foundation for every other level of success. You cannot win in physically if you're not winning mentally.
And that comes down to don't be conformed to the patterns of the world. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And then once you go from there, you can do anything. And I love that that's your platform and your passion. So I'd love to have you back on at some point, maybe later in the season, just get an update. Now, I might not be able to get on your schedule. We probably had a schedule for season 5 or 6 in 2025 based on your schedule, but we should definitely have you back on if you're willing.
I would definitely be happy to come back on, and I'm just grateful for the time that you guys allowed me to share on here. I hope it made a difference for someone out there that's listening. It's my passion is to give back and to help people out there achieve the goals and dreams and the things that they want to do in life, and let them know they can do it.
Well, I would be willing to bet it made a difference for more than one person, because one person was me. You made a difference for me, and I know you made a difference for other people as they're listening as well. So thanks again. It was an honor and privilege to have you on, Billy, and best of luck to you in this year and beyond.
Awesome, Jeff. Well, we appreciate you guys. Y'all keep rocking and rolling.